We've got an update on the president's crackdown on crime in the nation's capital, some stunning numbers and real results coming up here. But that's only if you're watching our show will you get that information. If you're watching MSNBC or some of the other cable networks, you're getting a different story. You're getting a different narrative. Apparently, President Trump, wanting to enforce our laws and make our cities cleaner and safer and less crime-ridden, apparently, it's all because the mayors of those cities are black. You see, to protect the lives and the lifestyle and the quality of life of black Americans living in our major cities right now makes you a racist. So says this guy. And let me tell you something. Al Sharpton, he knows a racist when he sees one. Like every morning when he goes into the bathroom and he looks above his sink.
It's a lot talking about how I've condemned a lot of what was going on in Chicago back in the day and other points. It's not about crime. But when you have this consistent pattern that you're only going after black mayors, now you're going to fight Westmore. I mean, the pattern here is clear, particularly when the data shows that crime is down in these cities. And you should be saying, why can't I work with the mayors? The wise political strategy is to start picking off some of these mayors that could say, Trump's not that bad, we're working together.
Right.
He doesn't want that. And it's clear he's doing it at the expense of people.
There you go. This is at the expense of people, most specifically black people. These are all cities where the mayors are black and brown. Although actually one of the mayors who is black up in New York, his name is Eric Adams, he did in fact do exactly what the good Reverend Al suggested. In fact, isn't that the city they're sitting in at that very moment? Eric Adams said, yeah, I welcome cooperation with the federal government. We got to fix this crime problem that Joe Biden inflicted on our city. Crime is down. Crime is down from 2023 and 2022, but it's not down from any normal perspective in any of these cities. And by the way, Reverend Al, it's not Trump's fault that these cities elect black or brown mayors, and it's not our fault or Trump's fault that those so-called black and brown mayors happen to be asleep at the switch as their cities spiral into a death cult of murder and carjacking and mayhem. But no, if the mayors are black, well, clearly it's because Trump is racist. He mentioned Westmore, the governor of Maryland, who is trying to out Gavin Newsom on the fighting with Trump on social media. It's sad. It's pathetic. He went after Trump over the weekend and challenged him to come walk the streets of Maryland. Trump replied and said, oh, you mean Baltimore, the fourth most dangerous city in the country? Tell you what, clean up the city and then maybe I'll walk the streets with you. So here was Westmore, of course, running for president on Morning Joe today. And take a listen carefully because he's going to reveal something that I think we'll all be able to see through and figure out pretty quickly.
First, I just want to ask you just in general, what historically has been Baltimore's greatest challenge? Why has Baltimore had a crime problem over the past 3-4 decades?
Hold on. I'm sorry. I've been trying so hard to let these clips play out and then comment afterwards. So I'm going to let you finish, Wes. But think about that question for a second. Just think about that question for a second. God, what are the challenges in Baltimore where you've just struggled so much with violent crime over the last 3-4 decades? Decades. I believe the last Republican mayor of Baltimore was 70 years ago. I could be wrong. Fact check me. I assure you, the last 3 or 4 decades, 100%. It's been nothing but Democrats. Why has it been such a problem for 3 or 4 decades? And now, of course, Westmore is going to blame Ronald Reagan, probably. All right, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It's just the insane to even have to articulate that question and pretend like you're being thoughtful and circumspect. Gee willikers, it's been tough for you for, 40 years now. What seems to be the problem?
Baltimore had a crime problem over the past 3-4 decades?
Well, I think oftentimes Baltimore's had a neglect problem. And I think about Baltimore used to be a city of 920,000 people. Baltimore is now a city of just under 600,000. In fact, if you look at the past few decades, Baltimore's had one of the most precipitous drops in population that we have seen in our country, with the exception of Cleveland and Detroit. But let's also remember this. There's a legacy of Baltimore.
All right, now understand something. All these apologists like Reverend Al and Westmore himself and a lot of other people saying things are so much better now. Crime is dropping. Crime is dropping. Even places like Baltimore. Westmore is trying to do a victory lap saying that certain statistics of crime in Baltimore have dropped over the last 2 years since he's been governor, right? But did you hear that data point? Okay, so understand. They keep saying, hey, crime's going down. Crime's getting better. Crime is dropping in Baltimore. Now listen to this again.
And I think about Baltimore used to be a city of 920,000 people. Baltimore is now a city of just under 600,000. In fact, if you look at the past few decades, Baltimore's had one of the most precipitous drops in population that we have seen. And
they've lost a third of their population. They've gone from 900 plus thousand to just over 600,000 in the last several years. And crime's gotten better. Okay, so let me do the math here. If you've lost a third of your population, if your crime is not down by at least a third, then it's actually increasing on a per capita basis, number one. Number two, clearly crime's going to get better when a third of your people leave because there are fewer people to victimize. Or maybe the criminals have left because there's no more money to be had burglaring people. Gosh, we're all done. Well, they have legalized pot in Maryland. So maybe the criminals, drug dealers have moved on to other states where it's more lucrative. So he's lamenting the fact that they've lost a third of their population in the city of Baltimore, yet at the same time doing some hollow victory lap that crime is down. Hell, I mean, that's a formula for success in any city, I think. What an absolute moron. I'm told that this is the front runner for the nomination. Wonder why. The racial accusations continued. I mean, just take a look at this brilliant panel over the weekend on MSNBC. The gentleman in the middle is literally the least popular mayor in America, even worse than Eric Adams in New York. He is the mayor of Chicago. And listen to what he says to the good people of that fair city in the wake of Donald Trump's suggestion that maybe Chicago should be next after Washington, D.C.
And so, look, we're going to remain firm. We'll take legal action. But the people of this city are accustomed to rising up against tyranny. And if that's necessary, I believe that the people of Chicago will stand firm alongside of me as I work every single day to protect the people of this city.
I'm sorry. The people of Chicago are used to rising up against tyranny. What, you mean Rahm Emanuel? Did I miss this? I'm from the Midwest originally, and I don't remember learning about Chicago's long history of rising up against tyranny. They were part of the revolution. What tyranny did they rise up against? I mean, yes, they struggled. Maybe it's the Bears' offensive scheme they don't like. The ownership of the Tribune? What tyranny is in Chicago? I mean, other than the pizzas they make you eat. But here he is trying to tell his citizens he's the mayor of the city. Maybe he's talking about the Obama Presidential Center. That is tyrannical looking. Maybe that's what they should rise up against. He's the mayor of the city. He's in charge of the police force. He's in charge of public safety. And he's calling on the people of his city to rise up against the federal government and the Trump administration. Listen.
And so, look, we're going to remain firm. We'll take legal action. But the people in this city are accustomed to rising up against tyranny. And if that's necessary, I believe that the people of Chicago will stand firm.
Is that a threat? If it's necessary, the people of Chicago will stand firm and rise up against tyranny. They are just, their secession obsession, which goes all the way back to the Democrats in the Civil War, run so deep in their blood. They just bathe themselves in this idea that they're revolutionaries of some sort. Meanwhile, there is tyranny in the streets. It's the gangs that everyone's terrified of in Chicago that he should probably be focusing on. But this is what weekend political analysis looks like on MSNBC. Let's tune away because you've had enough of that. Let's actually look at the success that Donald Trump and the administration has had in Washington, D.C. in just under 2 weeks since the president announced a crackdown on crime in your nation's capital. Here's the U.S. Attorney for D.C., Judge Jeanine Pirro, this morning.
The president, and I just spoke to him, he will be signing this shortly. This is when all of the problems started. If you think about what is going on in this country, it is when this movement started to reduce and eliminate cash bail that all the trouble started. So here in D.C., we've got defendants who are committing violent crimes who are being released out onto the streets. They are reoffending, and they're reoffending again. And this is where the trouble begins. The public is not safe. When violent criminals repeatedly prove to us that they are not a risk that we can tolerate anymore, when they are not put in jail. And in the end, the president is recognizing as part of his Make DC Safe and Beautiful that in order to do that, we've got to get the violent criminals off the street. And the president is literally transforming the safety landscape of Washington, D.C.
All right. So now you just heard Judge Jeanine say this morning that later today, President Trump will be signing an executive order eliminating cashless bail. And that's exactly what he did just about 90 minutes ago from when we went live here on this program. Here's the scene in the Oval Office.
These are a key driver of the disorder we see on city streets all over America. Catch and release system allows criminals to keep going back out onto the street and reoffending. What this executive order does, it charges your attorney general with identifying jurisdictions all over the country that have cashless bail policies, and then it withholds or revokes federal funds and grants that are flowing to those jurisdictions to ensure that we're only supporting the people who have reasonable common sense policies around crime.
So what area does it cover?
Potentially anywhere that has a cashless bail policy. So some of the largest cities, some of the most left-wing states in America.
Almost all of them, right?
Illinois would be a great example of that, sir.
Oh, they have a great cashless bail. You don't even have to go to court sometimes. No, Illinois, I love that state. It's a great state, but it's run so badly by Pritzker. They threw him out of the family business and he becomes governor. Now he wants to run for president. I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, we'll sign right here, right?
Sir.
So important. And this isn't Republican, Democrat. This is, and by the way, most Democrats agree with us. But this is just, we got to bring our country back. Okay? That's a big one.
Also on the issue of cashless bail, sir, this is a DC specific executive order.
All right, now that's also cashless bail in DC where he has even more executive authority. But understand what this does now. Your tax dollars have been underwriting, supporting, and frankly, bailing out failing cities across this country who have implemented policies that are tantamount to catch and release for criminals, basically right up to murder, where they get arrested for child molestation. They get arrested for sexual battery. They get arrested for grand theft auto. They get arrested for armed robbery, carjacking, you name it. They get arrested. They get processed. They go in front of a judge. The judge sets the court date, but they're not allowed to assign any bail to keep them off the streets. It's a revolving door at your local police station and local courthouse and county jail, and they're right back on the streets to wreak havoc. And actually, I mean, it's like, geez, I've already been arrested. I'm going to be seeing a court. I might as well just shoot my wad, man. I'm going to go and try to do the biggest crime I can. And oftentimes they go out and murder. after they've been released on cashless bail. And that's fine. And I know a lot of you are like, if those blue cities want to destroy themselves, let it go. Okay, first of all, we have our fellow Americans living in those cities. And whether they voted for it or not, we should care about them. As human beings, we should care about them. Okay, a lot of the victims, it's like, what do you want the victims, to lose their child in a murder and say, oh, darn, if only I hadn't voted Democrat. I mean, I get it, but please, let's be humans first. If we can stop that bloodshed, if we can stop that mayhem, we should. That's number one. But secondly, on a much more practical place where it might resonate more for you, those cities who are instituting those reckless, destructive, murderous, deadly policies are getting handouts from the federal government and the Justice Department to underwrite their law enforcement, and you're paying for it. You live in South Dakota, you live in Wyoming, you live in Oklahoma, where these kind of laws would never stand. You're still paying for it. You're subsidizing Chicago. You're subsidizing Dallas. You're subsidizing these cities who have these reckless policies. So now the Attorney General can look at these cities and say, okay, yeah, I know the Congress has voted for you to be able to get this money to help assist with your law enforcement. The president has added a string to that money. Happens all the time. This is what the left learned to do so well. This is what we now are doing for the first time. Liberals, Democrats, the left, Barack Obama, Congress would pass a law for education funding. We need more education funding. And Obama says, like, great, we got all this education funding. Now, tell all the schools around the country that they only get the education funding if they do all this woke garbage that I want them to do. And they did. Otherwise, they'd lose their funding. And now Trump's like, oh, is that a thing? Can we do that? Oh, okay. Tell you what. We'll give you all this law enforcement funding. We'll give you all of this education funding. Well, absolutely, you can have that funding. Clean up your act first. Because we're not throwing good money after bad, and we're not going to take money from honest, hardworking, law-abiding American citizens and take that money out of their pocket. They're taxed enough right now, and then give it to you so you can continue destroying your cities with these stupid, reckless, immoral policies. And that's what Trump did today with this executive order. And even beyond that, let's let the Attorney General speak for a moment, because she gave us an exact example why these laws, these policies, these Democrat policies that were framed in the BLM, George Floyd, we have a systemic racist criminal justice system, and we have to reimagine law enforcement in this country, and we have to defund the police. All these policies came from that mania. And the results, well, Attorney General Bondi explains the results.
His house was burglarized, and the defendant got out on cashless bail, went back the next night and burglarized her house again. That's why this is so important. A man got in a fight with another guy. He had a gun. He was let out. Next night, he got out, went back and killed him. So that's why it's so important, President, what you're doing. And thank you for protecting the American flag. And we'll do that without running afoul of the First Amendment.
That's right. Let's just be clear here. There are lives at stake with policies like this. And I say it often on this show, but I know that we get a lot of new viewers and a lot of new subscribers. Some of you are first-time viewers. Subscribe, will you? Because some of the things that we're doing right now in the last 7-8 months under the second Trump term, things like eliminating cashless bail and actually holding criminals after they've been arrested until they can post bond, things like clearing out homeless encampments of criminal vagrants so that they can't live in their own human waste and spread disease. These are lessons that we learned hundreds of years ago. It's called Western civilization. People didn't just come up with this during the Reagan era or when Bush was president. This is not something that just got invented during the Eisenhower era. No. Here in the West, from Europe to the New World, we learned a whole lot about public health and hygiene and not letting people live in their own waste in the streets, and about criminal behavior and about law enforcement and about how best to keep a civil society. We were really, really good at it until we started listening to the left, until we started listening to the progressive, destructive Marxists who have systematically torn down these institutions. And now we're all like, why do we do it like this? Hey, I've got an idea. How about if we arrest a criminal, we actually hold him and keep him from causing more harm and committing more crimes? There must be a way to do that. Yeah, there's a way to do that. We've been doing it for hundreds of years. And now we're riding that ship little by little by little. And as I said, it's only been a little under 2 weeks in Washington, D.C., with a renewed emphasis on law enforcement and policing. And once again, your U.S. Attorney, Gene Pirro, has an update for you.
Hi, everyone. It is Monday, August 25th, and we continue with President Trump's surge to make D.C. safe and beautiful. Our law enforcement partners, along with the local police, made 86 arrests last night. That was a big night. 10 guns were seized off the street, bringing the number of arrests to 1,007 and 111 guns taken off the street. That means 111 guns can't be used in assaulting and killing people. I think the most important part of all this is that today, on August 25th, we are in our 12th day of no homicides. In spite of the fact that we have 101 homicides so far this year, it has been 12 days without one homicide. And I got to tell you, folks, that's big. That's really big. The deterrent effect of all that's going on as a result of the president's move to make D.C. safe and beautiful is literally changing the safety landscape of Washington. This president is making a difference. And I'm telling you that as the prosecutor here, we're putting together the best cases we can to bring those cases into court to get convictions. Have a good day.
I like the hand on the hip at the end. Have a good day indeed. Yes, we're in our 12th day now without a homicide. Since they've been recording these numbers, we have not had a stretch like this in Washington, D.C. in the summer months that has gone this long without a homicide. And Democrats oppose this. The left hates this. Here's the D.C. Police Union this morning with the updated numbers. Robbery down 42%. ADW. What's ADW? Assault with a deadly weapon. Did it. Down 13%. Carjacking down 85%. Car theft down 24%. Violent crime 25%. Property crime 10%. Total crime down 11% in just 2 weeks. Why? Because a deep blue Democrat-run city has had law enforcement ripped away from their control. And that's what happened that quickly. So the question here is, what city is next? Will it be a city like Chicago under J.B. Pritzker and a deep blue electorate? Or maybe, just hear me out here, do you see a partnership coming between a very blue city that is in a very deep red state? See, I think that would be brilliant. The governor of that state reaching out to the federal government and saying, could we get a partnership with the National Guard? Because I've done my best as governor of this state and everything's great elsewhere. But in that city, that little blue island where all the Democrats live and where all the Democrat politicians are in charge, it's a nightmare. So I'm asking for federal assistance. Could we see that happening? Where would you like the next step to go after Washington, D.C.? Let us know in the comments or in the live chat if you're watching us live, and we'll see who wins.